Hey everybody, this is Carlos Ocelote, founder and CEO of G2 Esports, former professional gamer, and wonderful bodybuilder, as you may have known. Of course, you know me for that, pretty sure. And you're watching Dancan's channel. Thorin, my man. Enjoy.
Right, this is going to be another episode of Talk to Thorin, and my guest for this one is Carlos R., aka Ocelote, aka an actual human piece of shit. Oh, sorry, I've just been reading Reddit too much there, Carlos, my bad. That's actually not official, that's just an unofficial nickname that apparently thousands of people have for you. So, okay, actually, you know what, Carlos, normally I never ever do this where I go I don't do small talk, if you know, so I don't go tell me, player, when did you first learn about gaming, or oh, how are you doing today, how's it going, guys? I don't do that shit, it's not my style, right? But I actually genuinely do want to know at the beginning of this interview. I was joking there when I alluded to it, but how actually are you holding up? Because to be fair, you used to be, this is the journey, right? Yes, a long time ago, you were a spicy player, and, some people liked you, some people didn't. Then obviously in the G2 era, when he was successful, some people, tried to hate on you, but obviously the team was too successful, so, everyone was like, wow, the marketing's going to great, the branding. Now, this year has been the year where, like I said, everyone's just it's a piece of shit! So how are you holding up with that? Are you actually adjusted to this new environment where you are indeed apparently just a piece of shit every day, no matter what you do? You can sell a player, that makes you a piece of shit. If you don't sell a player, definite piece of shit. If you sell him for loads of money, you're just a piece of shit who wants money. If you're you can't win. It doesn't matter what you do, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a good thing, I think, because typically I would be concerned if I'm not spoken about, actually.
Okay.
I really, that's literally how I think. I think you can't do something extraordinary without alienating half the population. I think it's impossible. And a good example is fucking Elon Musk. Look at this guy. He literally changed the way the world operates and the way automobiles are produced and the types of automobiles produced. He's changing the way
rocketry or whatever,
yeah, spaceship fucking traveling, he's changing everything, things that a normal human being, even an ambitious human being, successful human, can't even comprehend for a second, and he has still half the population hate him. So I don't know, a portion of me is oh my god, I fucking hate the fact that people don't try to look for the details, people don't try to understand behind the scenes why things are the way they are. But on the other hand, I'm it'd be considerably worse to just be meh for everybody. And there's a lot of examples of that.
Of course.
Most of the teams and team owners that you think of are meh. They have no haters. They have no lovers. Everybody's meh. If they would disappear.
I'll give you an example, dude, and we can segue this into conversation about this off-season. So before we talk about your team, actually, that reminds me of what's going on this off-season. This is how you know. Right, I'll give you a very quick sidebar. One thing that tilts people who are analysts in games is, as an analyst, what you really want is the highest level play, and you want to see the best teams play and to decide all the narratives, But one of the most annoying things if you're an analyst is when an underdog team flukes a win somehow, and then the reason you hate it as an analyst is the next match that when they play against an even better team, they're probably going to be terrible. They had one game that they were amazing. But if you're a fan, right, fans always say, no, that's the most exciting game. Thorin, you stop being a hater. This will bring, new attention to it. If it doesn't, if you just go and look at the actual numbers, the numbers will be lower for the next match for viewership. When people actually get to prove what they're showing, with actions, you see that, that was just a nice idea they had that maybe people want upsets. So similarly, right, if I was listening to all the fans last year, Carlos, they'd all tell me, the two best organisations in LEC, easy. It's Rogue and Mad Lions. Look, they're geniuses. They got all these young players. And then this is how you know that people aren't actually fans of these teams, Carlos. No one gives a fuck that they gave their best players away. They literally sold their absolute, MVP level players, championship level players, got literally almost nothing in return for it. Sometimes either for free, just money, don't buy replacement players. But no one's actually mad. There weren't threats oh my god, Rogue's ruined the LEC. No one even... I feel there's 4 Mad Lions fans and 3 of them are still asleep and don't even know Humanoid's gone. Your whole team's gone, boys. What's going on? So that's a similar thing, right? Listen, in a weird way, the fan response to you shows that people care, right? People really care about what G2's doing.
Listen, 100%. I always, when G2 got created, I said, you're either going to love us or you're going to hate us, but you're certainly going to watch our games. And that's just proven. Any game you look at, we're one of the most watched, if not the most watched team, period. Regardless of the quality of the lineup. during that year. And that just goes to show that, we are the most relevant team, period. And so it's normal, bro. I am raw, right? And a raw human being is prone to not make more mistakes, but certainly his mistakes are going to be more public, right? Because I don't give a fuck. It's the truth. I will go out and say whatever I feel like in that moment. I have no filter, right? And so that creates the problem of people that thought of you slightly below, okay, like the guy is okay, will automatically extremize what they think of you very negatively.
Sure.
But also people that think of you kind of positively will very likely also extremize things very positively. So then you have a very emotionally charged like battle between those that love G2 and Carlos and those that hate G2 and Carlos. And that's okay. Honestly, I'm okay with that. You know why? Because when I sleep at night, I sleep very happily, knowing that I'm not fucking over anybody, that the players that I get into the org, I have multiplied their worth almost every single time. And I have proposed them to new heights that they wouldn't have been able to achieve in other teams. And because, among other reasons, I invest around them. And so my mind is extremely chill, knowing that, I'm doing the right things for what I believe to be my goal, which is just being the most relevant and successful organization in gaming and entertainment. Like, ultimately, that's my goal.
Right. Obviously, we'll get into just all the off-season roster stuff, but I'm going to start with last off-season so we can set the table of where your expectations are, what happened, etc. By the way, this is going to be a hard-hitting interview if people don't know. I'm just going to ask Carlos the questions. He can answer them however he wants them. So, you can actually ask questions, believe it or not, and the person doesn't have to just cancel the interview. Travis. Why did I say Travis there? It's weird. It's like free association or something I did there, Carlos. Right, here's what we're going to do, okay? Let's start with last off-season, because here's the first topic, right? As I said with joking about the whole piece of shit thing, people are still super stuck on the whole Perkz thing to Cloud9, right? And really, it's not the Perkz to Cloud9 part. That's after the fact he didn't go to Fnatic, right? So the first question I have goes like this, right? Last off-season, when you had this situation, you came on the Crackdown with me and Dom and you explained it all, that like you'd even told Perkz previously and everyone in the team knows there's one org I will never sell you to, which is Fnatic. You can be, and also you told people previously, I always tell you, I'm never going to just let you go for free. So if you sign the contract with me, I'm going to sell you for an amount, etc. Blah, blah, all that jazz, right? Yep. The problem is, if people don't know, you yourself recently revealed some pretty spicy info that when that actually Perkz apparently he thought he was the boss of G2, because he just like, everyone in the room, right, gather round, announcement, I will be joining Fnatic, and you were like, bro, you won't be doing that, and he was like, what the fuck?
Actually, hold on. Like, that's what one guy. No, I want to clarify, because that one guy that made the transcription of what I said on Twitter Spaces, said that the whole team was there. No, what I said is it was Perkz, myself, and then I added my esports operations manager back then, called Danny, and the manager of the League of Legends team, Taco, so that, because I smelled something odd, so I said, I want you guys there. Have
witnesses,
yeah, right. but what happened with the full team was the conversation about should we keep Perkz after he's saying he wants back. But he didn't, like, Perkz, just for the record, not that I know of, Perkz didn't gather the whole team to say he's going to Fnatic, okay? Just FYI.
Yeah, fair enough. No, totally, absolutely correct. Right, here's the thing, though, I would say. The gist was, he thought, because he was going to know he was going to leave the team, he'd already had the discussion with you, like, he can't play mid lane, obviously Caps is there. You also mentioned that publicly, that there was an agreement previously with
it was Caps. A gentleman's agreement.
Yeah. Understandable, because if you're a fan, why would you join a team where the other player is your main rival, and obviously he himself might want to roll swap back? So it makes perfect sense, that all.
No,
this is what I want to ask you is this, right? When you look back now, was it a mistake to make those tweets, the ones where you basically said Perkz is king or whatever, he does what he wants? You obviously couldn't join Fnatic, could he? That was the one thing he couldn't do.
Yeah. So it's funny you asked me this, because the answer to this is yes. We spoke about this before, and I said this in the Twitter Spaces as well, that the one thing I actually regret you can argue, looking back, you can always argue I would have done things differently with the information I have right now. but with the information, but that's in hindsight. That's not what I mean. What I mean is, with the information I had back then, it was still a mistake to put out those tweets. So it's one of those very few things, if not the only thing, honestly, that I in recent history regret putting out. And the tweets, just to be clear, are about, the one where he was like hugging my son, and I say that he's like the uncle of my son and shit like that. And another one, the Perkz goes where he pleases, right? And so I want to contextualize why that happened, although I already did it in Twitter Spaces, but it's very important people understand that there's two main reasons, right? One of them is that people were saying so barbaric shit online about my relationship with him. Like, literally, bro, like, I would get a 3 a.m. call, and if I was with 40 degrees fever and it was 3 a.m. and I would still take the call, put on my clothes, and go to the fucking gaming house just to walk with him and talk about his problems, right? Do you think I do that with every player? Well, obviously not, and certainly not anymore, but not to that degree of friendship. But I did care about him, right? And I do care about him, actually. It's true to a lesser degree, but I do care about him. And people saying some barbaric shit, like, bro, like on Sundays, which was the day off, right? And my day off, I would bring him home to eat dinner with my wife and my son. Like, what kind of player relationship is that? Like, we were just watching a movie or something with my son at night, and he's playing with Leo, and like, I don't know, he's part of the family. He actually was part of the family. I'm not even, like, it's just, I don't fucking do this with any other player. I've never done it with any other player, And so when you read barbaric shit about our relationship, then that's one of the reasons why I felt the need to tell the world, hold on, guys. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's not like that. Like, I don't want to fuck his career. I don't want to fuck him over. He doesn't want to fuck me either. He's just emotional about a decision I have taken. But nobody's trying to fuck anybody here, Look, this is proof of it. That's what my intention, I guess, was. But then number two reason was because of my very close relationship with Perkz. I was like, you know me. I mean, I consider myself empathetic. Like, I do feel empathy for people, right? And very, very strongly, actually. And I learned long ago, I won't get into details, but I learned long ago with actual family that family and business don't go together. It just doesn't. And in the past, I had to choose, and it was a very hurtful process, and I had to choose again. Because Perkz, even though he's not blood family, he became family, as I told you, as proven by the shit I told you we're doing on Sundays, which I don't do with anybody else. And so I was feeling like a bitch, bro. Like, mentally, I was weak, honestly. There was too much blah blah everywhere. I couldn't focus on my business, which I was in the process of reorganizing as well. Like, there's a lot that goes into this, It was a multi-million dollar, multi-tens of millions dollar company with 150 plus employees, or back then 120, 30 plus employees. And like, a lot of shit, it falls on your shoulders. On top of this, you have the lineup changes. You have the need to prove yourself competitively in front of your fans. You have the need to generate cash so that you can make up with your commercial team to get somebody as marketable for brands. On top of that, for you just have to make money to spend it later. Is that fucking simple, right? And so all these things combined, and then all this community reaction to this shit, it just made me honestly that was one of the only moments I remember, and I truly remember, in like the last 5-7 years, that I was like weak mentally. It lasted for a week or maybe less, a few days, but it was like really weak mentally. And yeah, I made those tweets, and I regret it because I was a fucking bitch. And that's okay. I learned my lesson. I learned many lessons.
I've got a quick question along those lines, by the way, before we go on, which is just this. Does it bother you at all that Luca Perkz himself sort of, I can't tell him, here's the thing, right, my vibe, I know him a little bit. My vibe is, I don't think he definitely doesn't buy the angle that fans say on Reddit, but I will say this, it feels like he's played with that, like he's used it as ammunition.
Of course.
He hasn't overtly said it, but he's sort of vaguely tried to allude to that, you know?
Of course. Yeah, he's smart. Of course he played with it. Of course he used... he intended to use public pressure to get what he wanted, and he still saw I didn't bend my knee regardless of that public pressure. Of course he did, and most players will do it, and I don't blame them because their careers are most dear to them, right?
Oh, for sure.
So I get it. I get it. Is it dirty playing? It's fine. I have more leverage because I'm the team owner, and ultimately I decide these things, among other reasons, because I spend tens of millions of dollars in this shit. No, but is this what it is? I consider it as part of the game, and I will never hold it against him.
Yeah.
I will. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. He did. But that's just how it goes, you know. Like corporate bad, CEO bad, player good, because they automatically connect me with Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I'm Jeff Bezos or some shit, you know? When in reality, I'm a startup owner that is just, until like 5 years ago, I was saving costs everywhere I could. Yeah, now I like my garage now, but to get here, there was blood, sweat, and tears and a lot of hours not spent with my son. So anyway, but that's besides the point. You know what I mean with this, and ultimately, yeah, that's the one thing I regret. And if I could go back in time, I wouldn't do it. You know why? Because I should be proud of the decisions I take, regardless of people not being on board with them. So long as I'm proud of them, like truly proud of them, and I was proud of that decision. I would do it again and again and again because it was the right thing.
Right. In the last off-season, I'm asking these questions on purpose with it because they obviously set up the precedent of what you think and what your principles are for the other moves we're going to talk about. So the other question along the Perkz line goes like this, right? Was Cloud9 the actual best offer for Perkz as well? Like, that's the perception as well. It's like, he also just only sends people to NA so they can't compete against him. Like, in this scenario, were there other EU teams that were comparable to the offer from Cloud9? Was Perkz the one who chose Cloud9 out of the teams? Would you actually have sold him to anyone but Fnatic? If, like, for example, the obvious example is like Vitality, because we all know they have the money and they did have that. If they'd have come along with the same deal as Cloud9 and Perkz said he wanted to go Vitality, would he have been there instead?
Bro, of course. Even better. Like, so let me give you the context, right? So after he tried to join Fnatic and I said, no, Fnatic is never going to happen. So what he did, he tried again and assert public pressure with the wolf on the ship story. And then Carlos was the motherfucker ever since then. And I still didn't cave to the pressure. And then he said, okay, then I stay, right? And maybe I am... Okay, maybe the ship on the wolf happened after I said, no, you can't return, actually. But maybe not that important. But important here is that when he realized that Fnatic was not going to happen, he said, okay, then I stay as AD carry. And I said, no, fuck no, you're not staying. And then I checked with the team, and the majority of the team said, yeah, it makes no sense that he stays if he's mentally checked out. I have a very clear mindset here. Like, even if you're LeBron James, like if you're checked out mentally, you're done. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
You're not gonna play. You're a faker. I don't give a fuck. So, you're Luka. I always said I prefer Perkz than faker on my Western team, and I stand by it. And I still said, no, you can't stay because I don't want to stay 12 months walking on eggshells. So, yeah, the moment he realized that he couldn't go to Fnatic and he couldn't stay as AD, then he went for the other options, which then he tried to do a super team that was significantly better than the one in Fnatic, than the team in Fnatic, sorry. He tried to do that with Hilizan as support, and... I think it might have been upset as AD, if I'm not correct, if I'm not wrong. Definitely top lane Alphari and then jungle Trick. He tried to do that and him as mid laner. He tried to do that for Misfits and Vitality. I tried to proactively make it happen. I did everything in my hand. I'm not expected to. I still tried because I want to sell him, right? For multiple reasons. One of them being that he was indeed family, actually. So that did play a positive role. And I was speaking with Misfits and Vitality about buyouts. And the buyouts were, I can tell you already, it was like 1.2 million. and I was ready to accept. Well, let me tell you, Cloud9 didn't pay 1.2 million. They paid like, I can't tell you the number, but we're talking about like, I mean, people know. Fucking people know.
People know the rough amount.
Like, yeah, people know the rough amount. So not even like, it's below half, right? So way below half. So we're talking here about the fact that I would have sold him to a better team for way less money than I sold him, than I had offers for him from North America to Europe. Okay? People just choose to fucking ignore that. Or automatically say I'm lying, using my tweets about Perkz go where he pleases as the baseline as of why I'm a liar. I'm not a liar. Like, I'm actually fucking honest. And that's the, actually that's the one thing that does trigger me, or used to trigger me, not anymore, because when you read it too much, it just goes one ear and leaves the other. But it used to trigger me when people just automatically believe I'm a liar because of those fucking tweets, when in reality my track record is like fucking immaculate. Like I have no filter. And so yeah, anyway, that's besides the point. But you know where I'm headed to. Like, he could have gone to a better team. I would have allowed it for way less money. And it didn't happen because Alfari took a plane to Utrecht and he signed with Team Liquid.
Yes.
And finally, the super team didn't happen. Hilly-san, as a result of that, agreed with Fnatic on renewal. So he stood with Bwipo, and the rest is history.
Right, here's what I want to know now then. So the question now goes like this. What is how would you explain, like you said you did to some of the past players in G2, how would you explain your philosophy on how you try to treat like contracts and trading instead of free agency? So to give people a quick example, one of the reasons why Fnatic, the actual org, has like a lot of ill will towards G2 is because they've lost two of their biggest names ever, Caps and Rekkles, but not for a transfer. They didn't even get any money out of it. It was just the end of their contracts and they just chose the next day, essentially, to join G2. Now, G2, if people look, doesn't tend to do that. They don't wait until it's the end of your contract. And then, for example, it's not like Jankos leaves, but he leaves, on a free transfer to NA or something. Like, at the moment, you've sold Perkz, you've sold Rekkles. Like, you clearly have an approach where it's like, if they're a big talent, you re-sign them, and then it's your choice of whether you sell them or not. So, give me your thoughts on that, because obviously this is another area that fans are really lost on. Like, they don't seem to understand that the players, like, willingly sign these deals, and that when they sign the deal, like, they don't have the choice anymore, right?
People want to have the cake, and they want to eat it too, And no, like, if you want to root for a Mad Lions or a Rogue, you're going to get a Mad Lions or Rogue levels of consistent, powerful lineup. Like it or not. Okay? If you are a great Samaritan doing charity for your beautiful players and choose to let them go for free and overpay them and shit, well, I'm telling you, you won't have a good team because you can't overpay every player forever. Like, at some point, your business has to look like a business. And what happens afterwards? The team disappears or they're forced to fire sell. And we have seen countless examples of all of this. G2 will not die. G2 will continue to win. Okay? Maybe we have off years, but we will continue to be a top team, a top relevant team. G2 will continue to get the best players, proven ones. G2 will continue to get the best rookies coming up. All of these will continue to be the case because that cake that we have created, right, forces players to sacrifice some things. In this case, in the case of a specific case of player transfers, they sacrifice when they join G2. They know that as long as they're in G2, their contract is not going to run out if they intend to play. It's that fucking simple. Why? Because I have given them my word. When they join, I give them my word that I will do everything in my hand to keep the team competitive. And by me giving that, what I get as exchange is commitment. That commitment allows me to know that when the player underperforms, I will sell him. And I will buy a player equal or better. So that the rest of the players that I promised would have a great team can continue to have a great team. Now, every player loves that approach up until they are the ones that suck. Right? So it's just very easy to be like, oh, no, I'm being taken care of. I mean, I'm being taken advantage of. And like, brother, before you joined G2, you didn't even know what MSI stand by. Like before you joined G2, you couldn't do better than 4th. Now you win so many things in a row. Why do you think that is? I put myself at risk by poaching players. I put my wallet at risk by spending millions. And the one thing I'm asking for, I mean, I asked for more things, obviously, but one of the crucial things I ask for is when you suck, before you sign and everything, when you suck, you gotta be okay with being sold. Because when your teammate sucks, he is okay to be sold so that you remain competitive. This is something that they know, and it's just what it is. It's just the rule I work by. And either you sign up to that rule or you don't get to join. It's that fucking simple.
Right, obviously in this last off-season, the one from last year, the big move was getting Rekkles. As I say, it was on a free transfer from Fnatic. Right, when you got this move, I think, and what's funny is this just shows how fans are all over the place. At the time, the fans were all complaining that you ruined LEC by making it impossible for anyone else to win a game. Like, they made it sound like this team would never lose a single game.
I mean,
it would be easy to win the title, you know, like everyone else has no chance. Because obviously on paper, you still had the same 4 players that had all the other success, and then you added Rekkles, who for most people was at worst a side grade ADC, if not arguably a better AD carry. I mean, Perkz obviously only played it for a couple of years. So when you made this team, did you also expect like we should just dominate everything? Is this what was supposed to happen in the Rekkles era?
I mean, I did not expect that, but at the same time, I mean, if I went back in time, would I take a different AD carry? With what I know right now, yes. With what I knew back then, no. And so, in other words, if I went back in time, I would do the exact same thing. Because if you have the opportunity to create a super team with Rekkles, you fucking do it. I would have always asked myself, what if? So I did the right thing. I don't ask myself, what if? I've learned a lesson, and I move on. The year sucked. That's okay. Next one won't.
Obviously, people are going to say, if you even look at the year, literally Rekkles was the MVP of the spring split, and a lot of people actually had him as a potential MVP candidate for the summer split as well. So fans or people who generally vote on that sort of thing, they would have said he's one of the better players in the league. So how would you explain from the outside, as in like you obviously can't give us all the inside details, give us some sense of why didn't it work, do you think? Why did Rekkles and G2 not work?
I think it's a combination of in-game and outside the game reasons, right? But in-game, I mean, it's just very different view on how the game should be played, and very different view on how a team should operate and operate together day by day, right? And there's no right or wrong answer. You see Messi succeeding, you see Ronaldo succeeding, right? The magic versus the commitment and the ambition to be the number one, right? And both work. And so I think this is no different, you know? Rekkles viewed the game one way, and he's made it work with champions that no other player, I think, could have made it work. Like, I don't think most players can get away with playing Sivir Jhin and expect good results. Yet he had good results, okay? Which speaks very highly about how fucking good he is in the game. But when those two picks you're doing sacrifice something else, perhaps top side, or sacrifice something else in the way we play the game, when the meta is not the right fit, and you are forced to play Ziggs 1v2 or Ezreal 1v2 bot lane, and you're still wanting to play, you know, the Jhin and Sivir stuff. I'm getting too granular, but because it's not as cut clear as this, right? But I'm just trying to be like extremist just for the sake of people understanding. Then he might still be able to play well, but the team will have either everybody else plays for that win condition of having Rekkles, or it's gonna fail. And we had a team of 4 that never played as win condition and never had a one-dimensional win condition through bot. G2 has never played through a one-dimensional win condition as through bot. Never. Maybe for a month or two with Sven and Mitty at Worlds, maybe, but it didn't really work out. But we never did that. So now we were incentivized to do that, but we never did it still, you know? So I think that it's definitely a mistake in team building, because we should have looked for an ADC that's not a rock star that sees himself as a great carry, but more so someone that takes pleasure in adapting to what the team needs, and I think it would have gone significantly better, but I don't think it would have fixed all the problems, bro. Like, we would have sucked still, Maybe we reach Worlds, who knows? But we would have sucked a big toe in Worlds. And then outside the game is like the same, Like, Rekkles is someone that wakes up early, goes to bed early, and that's just not that's not how the rest of the team wanted to live life, So, which means that when he stood in the gaming house for board games and stuff like that, it wouldn't just be natural for him. But most of the times he wouldn't stay. So then we have like different groups doing different things, and you can't have in a video game that relies more and more about everybody being on the same page in game. You can't have that deviation in and outside the game. You can have different people, different characters, and you should have, but you can't have that far apart, So I think that's, just in big picture, that's the reason why it failed. At the same time, you give me an AD carry that would have been with the team much more and would have been like much more adapting to what the team needed, and I still think we would have done badly because the overall hunger wasn't there. They were just not hungry anymore. They, as a group, they fell into bad habits playing together for so long. It's what sucks about succeeding so much. I don't think many people in this earth can keep that hunger unless something changes. I mean, even like the likes of fucking LeBron need to change teams eventually to reinvigorate that hunger, And when you play with not only the same org, but the same people around you for that long, the same support staff around you, you just fall into very bad habits. And it's nobody's fault. It's just as a byproduct of the extreme success we went through.
Whenever you have a team that is really successful, one thing I always find tough myself is trying to figure out like who did what in the team, who had what influence. Like the whole collective unit might look like they're really clutch or really dedicated, whatever the angle might be. It's only though when you pick people apart, especially if you send them to different teams, you can sort of test it and see like, right, well, this guy is like this, I'll put him in a different environment. Right? If you heard some of the stories about why supposedly Perkz and Cloud9 wasn't working that well, it actually sounds like it gives us some insight into what he was doing in G2, because I've heard basically that actually some of the players in Cloud9 didn't like the idea that he was sort of like a stricter player or like would call people on their shit or wanted to have like actual like proper discussions about what's going on instead of just, hoping things get better, right? People have seen this big contrast because obviously G2 looked a lot worse. And then specifically, I got the vibe, this is what I wanted to ask you about. Did this actually sort of like teach you something about intangibles, about like what types of figures you needed beyond just the players in the game, obviously? Like as you say, yes, I need like a good AD characters, this, that, and the other, but you need also to have like captains and leaders. Yeah, but and I got the vibe like maybe Perkz was keeping some of the other members in line in past years. Is that true?
Yeah, but look, I think that's a lot of Perkz's strengths are typically brought forward by the support stuff, by the coaching stuff.
Okay. In what way?
In the way of, hey guys, we fucking suck. Like ahead of time, with enough time ahead of the important games, so that people can just, and create a culture as a coach. I'm not blaming Grabs. Guys, that's not what I'm doing, but Grabs worked within the context of having Perkz, and that's how he did well within that realm of possibilities he was playing with, right? But typically, more often than not, you see that culture being developed by the GM of the team or like the coach of the team. A culture of telling to each other things with honesty, with the goal of getting better as a team. A culture of making sure people are holding each other accountable to high standards. That's not typically on the player. It really isn't. That's typically on the coach. So yeah, it is true that losing Perkz made us lose that, and we did not have a replacement for that in particular. And Perkz learned that from Mitty, as I did as well. Actually, I think Mitty is one of the used to be, actually, as a player, one of the absolute best at this. He would just tell you, hey, this fucking sucked, in an completely unemotionally, and he made every team he was a part of better by doing that. He created that culture, and Perkz sucked that culture in, and then implemented it himself when Mitty was no longer there. And Grabs was a fantastic coach when you have players that carry on that culture, or a player that carries on that culture. Then you take the player out. There is nobody that will tell to their teammates, hey, we fucking suck. That was fucking garbage, in a way that's unemotional and just with the goal of getting better. And then the coaching staff doesn't have it either. So then you have a conflict-shy group of people. And when a conflict-shy group of people leads to a problem like this, eventually it becomes bigger, then bigger, then bigger, and eventually it explodes. And if it explodes at the wrong time, like it did, then you get what we got. And specifically, one of the bigger problems of small problems that become large is that it's like everything is so flimsy, you know? It's like every game, every official game that matters becomes so flimsy. It's like, yeah, we were doing well, but then I trolled here. Oh, and then you just lose the game? Like, where is the camaraderie and team spirit to, as a whole, as a group, say, okay, let's look for solutions, you know? When you don't have that, because this small problem became now this large, and people end up hating each other. I mean, I'm not saying, I don't want to be quoted like people hated each other in the team, but I mean, like, our bot lane never do it. Like, there was no conversations about the game like in a normal, like this. There was no love for getting better as a team. There was no love for getting better and looking for better ways to play the game. There was no love for that. And yeah, we are partly to blame for incentivizing putting this team together.
Right. There was obviously it came out through media, I will say, this story that like Caps and Yankos, I mean, it's phrased a million different ways, like you're implying there, where the people want to sensationalize. Either they just said, like, you know, do I want to play with Rekkles, yes or no, or they specifically were like, I don't want to play with him, or I won't come back myself, whatever. Right, give us what your version of that is. Like, obviously, these are the only two players you kept, so it's not like it's just them specifically. The others were leaving anyway. Wunder was obviously sold, and Mikyx potentially was going to be sold. Give us the angle on this one. Like, essentially, is it just like a team vote of, like, do you want to play with this guy? Were the people actively, it's like, look, I don't want to play again if this guy's... Give us, where was that story at?
You know, if it would affect me only, I would like go super transparent, but it doesn't affect me only to speak about this. And the last thing I want is like the players to be like bombarded with shit. So I'd rather just not get into it. Just know that I had an intention, I had an idea of what changes needed to be made. I brought that idea to the players I wanted to keep, and that idea was heavily welcomed. That's it.
What would you say on this angle of what's happened to Rekkles since? Where obviously, right, I find this whole topic really weird, Carlos, because since there was so much drama around it, I feel like the drama overtook all the facts and everyone's forgotten. So at the beginning, like I said earlier, you know what I described it as? Like, Rekkles was their MVP, and then he was an MVP candidate, and a lot of people actually were saying he was like one of the better players in the team. But when we came to the off-season, suddenly, like, again, you're a piece of shit because you want to sell him for a good buyout, like a high buyout, a guy with years left on his contract, a literal fucking Ralph Lauren model. Like, give me your thoughts on this, like, Rekkles offseason. Like, did you actually think it would be easy to sell him? Obviously, I came out with the tweet, but let's just say my sources are good. I hinted months ago that he was going to potentially leave the team and it would be available, etc. What do you think? What went wrong, or what was the mismatch?
Yeah, actually, you were the first person to ever say Rekkles was leaving, and I was like, what the fuck? There you go. But anyway, yeah, so I did think we could get... I mean, I'll be honest with you. I thought I would get 2 million for him, euros. I didn't even put like a price. And whenever we spoke a price, I always like to say, like, just let's talk, like, this is where my head is, but if you have creative ways to get there, I mean, I'm open-minded, like, I'm never like, oh, take this or leave this, buy Felicia, I know it's a player career, I was a player as well, so that part of me kicks in a bit as well, and I don't want to sit on a contract. I want to sell my players too. I'm not fucking stupid. But yeah, then with Hans Sama having the worlds he had, which nobody expected. I mean, Hans Sama is good, bro, but before these worlds, you ask in Europe, like, who's the best? And like, I don't know if people would just say Hans Sama. I just think people have a lot of recency bias.
Of course.
But anyway, Hans Sama on the market. Carsey, back then, when I tried to start selling Rekkles, which was shortly after we shut the bet and didn't qualify for Worlds, like shortly after, Carsey wasn't clear either that he was going to be in the market. Everybody thought, I remember seeing shit online that he's staying in Mad, and like Mad Lions had the renewal ready and blah blah, right? And I was thinking to myself, maybe if I want Carsey, fuck, I hope they don't renew him, because he could be interesting for G2 as well and stuff. But I was like thinking to myself, okay, so Rekkles is the only true high-profile AD carry on the market. At that time, that was the case. Like, the only people you were thinking of that were going to be part of the market is like, the people like Danny from like EG, like maybe like things like that. And I was like, okay, well, this is going to be fucking easy, If people see what we did with him in Ralph Lauren, we put him all around London, and he was the face of fucking Wembley, Ralph Lauren, and Wimbledon, Ralph Lauren, and yeah, we will sell him easily. But then the truth hit, which is that other AD carries were actually all of a sudden on the market, and like people were like, oh shit, look, this Hans Sama guy, we're hearing things, and like he's doing really well, so let's wait. There's no need to rush, let's see, right? And then I couldn't fucking move the needle at all. I just couldn't do anything. And also the player had expectations, right? Like initially the expectation is to go to the best team available, just like my expectation is to sell him for X, right? But then eventually time passes and new things come to your attention, and then the expectation goes down and down for both the player and the org, So it's not like just fucking G2 aimed too high or anything like that, and as a result he ended in ERL. No, is that the data available to both us and the player put the situation where it was and reduced the situation and the expectations for both of us as time went by. So yeah, I think we did the right thing, man. I'm dead honest with you, man. I think we did the right thing, and Rekkles was incredibly accommodating throughout the process, and we sold him to Karmine Corp for way less money than we would have, I think, sold him in any other condition than Rekkles not being helpful, actually. So Rekkles was very helpful, and we allowed it to happen for very low amount.
What does it say? This is just a question for me, personally. What does it say about the LEC that there are actually now teams in ERLs that appear to have more money to spend and appear to be better organizations? What would you say?
I mean,
I know you have to be careful about what you say in this scenario.
No, I'm not careful. I mean, parasites are parasites, okay? But at the same time, I mean, they bought a franchise slot, right? And they have to make money somehow, I guess, and you can't just ask everybody to pay incredible buyouts for every player, and if everybody was G2, yeah, maybe there would be a lot of viewership, but then you can never have a super team, because if everybody's like G2, then you can never have good teams because they're all spread, So you need those teams as well, right? And it is true that the money I ended up selling Rekkles for was very small amount, and honestly, like it's a bad business move not to spend that money, because you're gonna get it back in sponsorships. Like you're unless you're just really bad at your job, you're gonna get it back in sponsorships. And yeah, on that end, yes, I agree. On another end, I'm like, it's not like, I mean, I have to be careful with, like, it's not like the LEC teams are rich. G2 is rich because we have a business that makes sense outside of League of Legends, like, as well, right? Like, our business makes a lot of sense. We have a good business. Well, then you have other teams, like, I don't know, Vitality, right? Like, the founders don't own the company anymore almost, so they have like big bucks from investor. He wants to all of a sudden be competitive, so he invests some tens of millions of dollars to accomplish it. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing sustainable in there. But yeah, I mean, LEC teams are just don't have businesses that look like that great as to spend millions in a player even like Rekkles.
Because on the other side of the equation, though, Carlos, the part I find really bizarre goes like this. And this is what you're going to have to explain to me, because I haven't even tried asking you privately about this, because I wanted to do publicly and see what you say, right? If you don't want to sell Perkz to Fnatic for obvious reasons, he's like an iconic player, maybe he'd make a dynasty, blah, blah, blah. Why sell Wunder there then? Like, I thought you're not selling players to Fnatic, but now you're selling Wunder. And why is Wunder being sold? As far as I can tell, why were more people bidding on Wunder than fucking Rekkles? Like, if I look at the last year, Rekkles played way better than Wunder. Give me some thoughts on this angle. What happened with the Wunder deal, basically?
Yeah, so I actually never... it's not when a player joins G2. Like, I've never told a player when he joins G2, you're not going to join Fnatic. But the context of my relationship with Perkz and all the conversations we had about Fnatic, including specific conversations of like, you would never go to Fnatic, like actual specific concrete sentences like those. But the whole context of our relationship made it impossible that Fnatic was even an option ever, Well, with other players, it's not the case, because there is not that emotional baggage or like that emotional connection with them. There's just, Fnatic is another team. If you asked me 3 years ago, typically, you would see my respect for a team is proportional to my amount of roasting. Okay, so
that means you really like Fnatic then? You just roast them all the time?
I mean, I respected them back then. I no longer do, but I did. I think they're just an average business, They're okay. I mean, they're okay. But it's not like before, I did look up to them in some areas.
Sure.
Now I look up to 100 Thieves in many other areas, and it pisses me off when they do things well, and I roast them and blah, blah, But I hold them in high esteem, But yeah, it's like, it's just Perkz to Fnatic. That's it. Now, if you give me the option between selling Wunder to Fnatic or selling Wunder to Excel, then I'd rather, and both of them pay the same, I'd rather sell them to Excel, right? Because Fnatic is more of a challenge to deal against than Excel is. I'm not talking competitively only, I'm talking just in terms of like competition outside the game as well, business, right? Business-wise. So, but it is not enough of a reason not to sell him to Fnatic at all, Fnatic even paid very low for Wunder. But I'll be honest, bro, like Wunder... Okay, I'll be honest, very honest. Like, I felt what's the word I'm looking for? When your friend does something really bad to you, like you trusted him, but your friend
betrayed.
Yeah, I felt betrayed by Luca wanting to go to Fnatic, right? And the way everything played out, which was right after Worlds, or during Worlds, actually, like right after Worlds, like days after Worlds losing, he's already in Fnatic, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I wonder what happened, without me learning, I think without me even knowing, right? Like that's just the whole thing was just a mess, and I did feel betrayed in that regard. So with Wunder, I never felt like that in this offseason. He's a bit careless, right, about these things. It's true, like he's not like the most organized person or whatever, but at the same time, bro, he did his best in Summer Split to make it work. He changed his lifestyle in the off season. He's tried to accommodate, right? And I respect him. And what he's done to try to make it work, both in game and outside the game. So I realized that if there was no Fnatic, he was going to be teamless for the year. And I said, all right, let's fucking sell you to Fnatic. All good, bro. And that's what happened. Like, again, like, see what I mean? Like, I'm not an angel, right? Like, my priority list in life, of course, number one, the health of me and my family. But, like, number two is G2. And everything else comes after. Everything else comes after, right? That's my priority list, my hierarchy of how I take decisions, right? And I still decided for him to go to Fnatic for a low amount. So people just need to focus on these things as well, right? If you're gonna talk about my off-season dealings, just talk about these things as well, right? And just judge them the same way you judge the other things. And the same way you judge Mikyx staying on the bench or whatever, judge Jensen or Niski staying on the bench. You know what I mean? And this is not an invisible brand making the decision. These are people making the decision, typically the CEO making the decision. Not because I'm the only one that tweets. G2 happens to be the only org where the team owner takes the decision, So, yeah, I guess it is what it is, bro. I just like, what I like about all this, bro? Like, between the Twitter Spaces thing, making interviews like this one, is that I can move on mentally,
Yeah.
Okay, it's like anybody that says, oh, you're a liar, blah, blah. Look, brother, there's information out there. Look for it and go fuck yourself. It's like my peace of mind is there.
What would you say about that angle? Listen, again, the problem with some of this information, if people don't get it, is because I myself am getting it through publicly whack sources, like people who are anonymous and guys that have no fucking consequences. I have to find out from Carlos sometimes if something's even happened. So there was that story that implied in the off season that like you guys put the price up for Wunder to Fnatic because like you knew that like Fnatic was going to sell Adam to fucking BDS or whatever. You remember this whole drama that got made about like G2's trying to fuck with Fnatic and make them pay more. What would you say to this angle?
I don't even remember that. I don't even remember seeing that. I swear to God, I don't even remember seeing that. What was it again?
It was something along the lines of like you were going to sell Wunder to Fnatic, but then you found out that like Fnatic was going to get more money by selling Adam to BDS or something, and so you guys upped your amount to like match the same amount that they were. Something like that. Again, it was like the idea that like Fnatic can't win.
I haven't even read any of this. Like okay. It's not true. Okay, yes, that's it. It's not true.
Right, what about this then? Let's just quickly, before we go to the new players, what about the Mikyx scenario? So obviously Mikyx, again, another player that, listen, he didn't have the greatest year, but like most people, if you go back 2 years ago, consider him one of the best players in the world, blah, 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 so super duper good. Right, the story with his is interesting because this one to me, Carlos, is more about actually how players treat the off-season and stuff publicly. Like, by the way, if people didn't get my hint earlier, what I'm implying was just as someone like Perkz could overtly use information to his advantage, teams like, spoiler, Fnatic, it's weird how all this news always comes out and seems to play right into Fnatic's hand, isn't it? Oh, it's going to be sold for what? If people don't get it, that just means their source is Fnatic. If people really can't figure it out, it's obvious. Yeah, hello.
Of course it's Fnatic. I mean, of course, but I mean, that's that. I mean, I thought that is like anybody with a glimpse of intelligence would know that.
You'd hope so, but they don't always get it. They don't always figure it out. So, okay, on the Mikyx one, right, the story here supposedly goes that you guys had, like, again, it was like over $1 million buyout. Like, you said all the stuff publicly what the buyouts were. You did it on Twitter when an idiot tried to come against you, right? When you said about how much the buyout was, the perception goes that basically at the end, I guess nobody wanted Mikyx because no one bought him out. So then you had this Twitter thing back and forward to him where it was basically implied that, well, no, there were teams, there were even LEC teams that wanted him, but he just himself didn't want to go. And then he did this weird thing. And this is why I say it's weird, Carl. It's like, because there was no follow-up. Like, he did this tweet where he sort of tried to call you out and sort of be like, that's not what I heard. But then when you said, essentially, like, check with your agent, there was this radio silence. Like, wait a minute, Mickey. Dude, if you've got him back to rights, literally, if this guy's a scumbag owner and he's lied to you and all that stuff, all you do is your agent comes out there and says it's not true. You can, like, why nothing? Radio sat. So give me your thoughts on this deal. Because as far as I could tell, before that moment, there wasn't like any beef with the Mikyx situation. But now it feels like it's got a sort of sourness to that.
You know what I think happened? You know what I think happened? I spoke with the agent afterwards. You know what I think happened? I think he was saying that's not the information I know. No, that's not. No, he said something like this information didn't reach me or something, right?
Okay.
He said something like along the lines of this information didn't reach me, right? But I think he was referring to the price, actually, when in reality, like, no agent or player knows the price the team is selling a player for. So maybe he was referring to that. I mean, I haven't spoken with Mickey, to be honest.
Okay.
And by the way, like, he did reach out to me on WhatsApp and actually, I don't want to say apologize because, to be fair, I don't remember, but it was like, hold on. Let me actually, I will not read it to you, but yeah. So essentially, we had a tweet. So we told Mickey, we help you build a tweet, so that to help your off season. Yes. To help sell you to a great team after spring split, right? And we were gonna, like, I mean, the goal is to sell him. I don't want to stay on a fucking contract, right? And so we said we help you build the tweet, right? And there was a mutual understanding, and we even told him, like, before you tweet, run it through us, because we want to make sure that is the case. And he didn't do that, so he apologized to me for not running on after all of this happened. He apologized to me for not running the tweet through us as approval, essentially. Okay. Now he's not taking like he's not taking like he's not apologizing for everything bad or whatever. But you can clearly see that there's no bad blood or anything. It's just that something between what I understood and the fans understood from that tweet and the reality is off, right? And what we understood from the tweet, when I read it as well, I was like, what the fuck? Was that no team... That what I understood from Mickey's tweet is that he didn't know there was interested teams in him.
Right.
When in reality, what I think was, and again, I haven't spoken with him about this, but I did speak with the agent, was that maybe he meant that the amounts of money we were trying to sell him for, it just didn't reach him. But that's not common knowledge for players nor agents. That's like between the team and the team we're trying to sell the player to, right? So anyway, that's honestly, like, these kind of things that look so mysterious and Machiavellic, sometimes it's just as dumb as player is just tweeting shit. Because he's in an emotional moment. He's read maybe something on Reddit or on Twitter that triggers him. Then he says some shit. He doesn't think about the consequences of doing that. He doesn't think about, oh, fuck, Carlos is not like every other owner. Carlos will actually bring out the receipts or something, Or I don't know. I don't know what goes through the people's minds, but sometimes it's not that deep. It's not as deep as people make it out to be. Sometimes it's a dumb fucking tweet that makes everything weird,
Sure.
And I think this was one of those situations. Like, again, I had nothing to hide. I think the offseason with Mickey, we did everything we fucking could, man. Like, we spent so many hours trying to make it happen. And by the way, when this tweet happened, well, with the Twitter exchange happened between Mickey and I had team owners come to me on WhatsApp and say, how the fuck does he dare doing this when I have spoken with him and he was asking blah, 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 like, yeah, details. But basically, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, get you. Right, okay, of the players that are being signed, the easiest one to go past first is BrokenBlade, because obviously there's not really any drama about that. I think most people thought he's a pretty good player. He's only looked better and better most of the years he's played, including in LEC now. So why sign BrokenBlade as the replacement for Wunder?
Well, I think Wunder Fell in G2, fell into habits and fell into things into a lifestyle that I don't think was going to be like good for his level long term. And I think that it's one of those rare win-win situations where he leaves the org, which means he gets challenged differently now by different people. Now he has to prove himself, so that will reinvigorate some of that love for the game. And I do think that he will do well in Fnatic, actually. I think that Fnatic has a sick team, actually. I think if he would have stayed in G2, the version of Wunder would have been worse than the version of Wunder in Fnatic. Again, because it's just normal, bro. When you're in the same place with the same people. I mean, now it wouldn't be the same people, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I wanted to. The truth is that I just wanted to implode the team. I wanted to be able to go into the room and say, "Hey, how's it going, people?" And like, I don't get like faces, you know. I don't get like weird awkwardness. I want to go into the fucking room like I go with every other team and feel warmth and feel the energy of a feeling of camaraderie, that we're all in the same boat, you know? Yeah, I don't get to CS with you. I don't get to team fight with you, but I do get to make sure your fucking cook is amongst the best we can find, that your GM tries to make sure commercial deliverables happen in a day where it's not your off day, but at the same time it doesn't fuck up with your scrims, while still doing content that elevates your brand and all that shit. Like, ultimately, I am a part to play in whenever you win Worlds, and I will come into the stage with you, and I will raise the trophy with you, because the trophy is also mine, okay? And so that feeling of a team that acknowledges everybody, including a maid, bro, including everybody, adding their grain of sand to make the team better, is a culture I want to have in the team. And I don't think that was possible with the team we had before. So I did want to implode the team. Among other reasons, that was one of the bigger ones. And now, why BrokenBlade? I mean, BrokenBlade is the same human being than Caps. It's just like BrokenBlade, Caps, and Flakked, by the way, like they're like the same person. They just love League of Legends, play the game all the time, talk about the game all the time, make jokes all the time, say silly shit all the time. They're like naive, you know? They're like still naive, and the only thing they care about is playing the video game and winning in the video game. That's it. They love the video game. They don't know how to do anything else. They don't want to do anything else. They just want to laugh, have fun, play League of Legends. Done. You know? And that's number one reason, actually. Of course, I mean, there's a basic one, which is like, is he good enough? Yes, he's good enough, right? But that's number one reason outside of the game, right? And then ultimately, actually, like I was already thinking about the way to play the game and the way metas have been looking like lately, right? In the last few years. And metas no longer look like the AD carry is the 1v9, you know? They just don't. Sometimes you get the world's meta, which is like, if you go MF Lucian Draven, which is a very specific aggressive meta, maybe playing through bottom is good, and that's why maybe Hansama shined, right? But even with how great Hansama played in Worlds, and then playing through bot lane, look, Rogue still sucked. I mean, they were bad, actually. They were bad. So maybe it's just not the right way to play the game. You have to be very multidimensional in the way you play the game. You have to be very dynamic in the way you play the game. And so I was already thinking about, we need not a weak side AD carry, because that's also one dimensional. We need an AD carry that can carry, and an AD carry that can be okay with going 1v2 while the support roams. And an AD carry that can be, you know, someone that doesn't feel that pressure in his shoulders to have to 1v9, but instead feels like this guy from Damwon. How's the AD carry? Ghost. Someone like Ghost, you know? He's a role player, you know? And those are those are really, really needed when you have BB and Caps. Is that
Right,
simple.
along those lines, then, that's a perfect question for me to segue into, which goes like this, right? As an outsider, what someone's going to say is this, Carlos. They're going to say, look, the other moves are fine. Like BrokenBlade, that would be a good pickup anyway if you look in LEC. Targamas, actually, if people don't know, he was one of the players getting hyped from Karmine Corp when they were in the EU Masters and stuff, and people did think he should be in LEC. Flakked's the one that's the real big stunner, because first of all, you're replacing Rekkles with him, who's one of the biggest names ever at that position. And then secondly, if people are going to think, you're trying to make super teams every year. So the question would be, why isn't that, I mean, pick who you want. Why isn't that Hansama? Why isn't that pick anyone, Double Lift, fucking Viper? Go across the board. Why isn't this a big name? Like, what would you say to you've sort of alluded to some of it, but to a fan who says, why isn't this a big name? Why isn't it?
Well, first of all, actually, let me contextualize decision making, okay? So on my end, first and foremost, I actually struggled this offseason a lot. I think didn't I tell you, actually? I think I did tell you at some point.
You basically told me you were sort of going between the two positions. Like, on the one hand, in fact, you know what? You're pretty transparent, guy. I won't say all the secret shit, but I'll say it like this. Because you were pretty honest with it, I thought you described it well. You said, part of me, the ego part, wanted to just go and get the biggest name possible.
Exactly,
It's like the Jack move. You know, you wanted to be like, look, I've done the big balls move. I did get you, let's say, Viper. Let's pick like the craziest name. Obviously, just won Worlds, right? But you said the other part of you was like, if I actually really believe that these other players who have no name is comparable, if they really are better, shouldn't I go with that move to make like the genius move?
Exactly.
Come on.
Yeah. So you know, I mean, I'm not gonna name any. Why not, bro? Why not? Fuck it. There's no need. But there are teams out there with founders that no longer own their organizations, right?
Sure.
And they maybe own like 3%, 5% of the org, maybe 7%. Okay. And those guys are just not incentivized enough to care enough. So what they have left is the perception of their work, right? How much fans love them and how much their positions are sought after and them as management are sought after for whatever their future career moves are, right? Then what you want to do is to be in the spotlight for good things only. So what is the best way to do that? Through getting players with a lot of fans into the team. That's it. That's simple, right? So I have an ego like everybody else, you know, but I do have a strong ego, really strong ego. And sometimes I have to just tell my ego to shut the fuck up because it will make decisions for me. And that was one of those times that was so hard to actually shut my ego off because my ego, I mean, I still own my company, right? So I don't have that necessity. Like, I care more about G2 succeeding than I care about my perception. Because, I mean, in a way, G2 succeeding builds my perception even better.
Yes.
But a part of me was like, bro, just get Hansama or Viper, you know? Like, that's what I thought of. Like, you know, like, oh, I see all these fucking people complaining about Flakked. You know what? Fuck it. Viper, how much? You know? And I could have made that happen. Or Hansama, I could have made it happen. But I didn't. And when I realized I was already conflicted with that ego, just trying to take over, you know what I did? I essentially gathered the whole team, and including support staff, and I said, look, guys, let's vote for this, okay? Let's vote for what we think is going to give us the best team for next year. 80 carries available, any 80 carry you can think of, including Hansama and Karsi and Viper and blah, right? And it almost came unanimously in favor of Targamas Flakked. I say almost because one person out of the whole group voted for Hansama Targamas. One. So ultimately, we did what we generally believe was the best for the team. Can we be wrong? Yeah, I guess we can, but the decision was taken on the basis of what's the best thing we can have.
It is a fun question, but obviously we'll see how you answer it. Maybe it won't be as fun. This is the question, Carlos. You know when I alluded at the beginning of the interview to this Reddit perception of who Carlos and G2 are? So the perception of Carlos and G2 goes like this. They're really cynical and they don't care about the pro players at all. So what they're trying to do is they're just trying to sell the player for as much money, but also not just money. They want to also like not let him go to a rival. So not LEC if possible. And if possible, just give him to some idiot Americans and then they'll just waste their time with him, right? What if I said this to you, Carlos? What if I asked you, what isn't it the case, based on some things little birds have told me, that in this off-season alone, there were teams trying to sell their star players from LEC only to NA, not to G2 and Carlos, and there are big orgs in EU don't want to sell to G2?
Yeah,
so it's actually the opposite of what fans think.
Rogue will not sell to Europe, not even G2. Rogue wouldn't want to sell Kansama to Europe unless we pay significantly more than whatever was offered in North America. And I was ready to, if that was the final choice, by the way. Which wasn't. So, yeah, it's true. They forced the player out. It just happened to be that Hansama was actually very happy to go North America too. Which, by the way, also I included in my assessment, because nobody goes to NA if you want to win Worlds.
I know what you mean by that. I definitely know what you mean.
I mean, it's, I can't be clearer.
Sure.
You don't consider one of the best options North America if your goal is winning Worlds. So where is your mind at? Is it on Balenciagas or is it on World's Trophy?
Why do you think the other orgs, like, why do they essentially, they're getting away with what fans won't allow you to do, even when you haven't done it, which is you have to sell to your rivals or whatever. Like, the joke is this, right? I think you've made jokes similar, but I'll ask the question along these lines, right? Essentially, I'll use Fnatic as the example, but if you're a fan out there, understand we're talking about all the big orgs. If you can think of a big org that has money, they're all doing this, right? The joke is if they all complain, oh, Carlos is poaching, oh, fucking Carlos, he's managed to, he's not selling to play. The joke is they're all doing this as well. They're just not as good at it.
Of course they are.
You know,
they're neither as good at it, nor they are vocal about it.
Yes.
Right?
They keep it secret, exactly.
They will always, I mean, what does the brand or what does the management of Rogue or Mad Lion stand for? Nobody fucking knows, because they're just invisible. You know, they're like a corporation. They're literally like a corporation. They just want to be as non-problematic as humanly possible. They want to do as many open public good deeds and charitable matter things as humanly possible to get the brownie points. But there's no substance. There's nothing they believe in. Their culture is non-existent. There's no substance, and that also applies to the way their management communicates, openly or not, or the lack of communication in this case. No, they'd rather not give any visibility at all, right? Because that will make some people dislike them, right? And they can't live under that premise. They'd rather be just irrelevant, you know? And I'm telling you, you can't do anything great without, like truly great, without being hated by a vast majority of people. You just can't. Because to be at that point of relevance, you need to challenge the status quo, right? You need to challenge whatever right now is considered standard. And people don't like that. People don't like when you change the game or try to change the game. No, this is how things are done here, right? And it happens even between teams, right? Oh, you can't do that. That's how things are done. Is it? Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, Carlos, you can't be that vocal. Well, can't I? What do you mean? Like, are you trying something to? Like, are you trying to hide something? Like, why can't I like say whatever the fuck I want? Why can't I say the F word? Like, what is going on here? You know, like, yeah, this is my rules. And like, and the same applies to the same applies to everything actually. So yeah, I think you're spot on. If teams could be as successful as G2 doing what G2 is doing, teams would do it.
All right, one last obviously detail is I don't want to miss out the coach. Why sign Dylan Falco as the coach? Can you give us some of the thinking behind this, or what it was that caught your eye about him in the past teams? Maybe.
Yeah, so Caps is rarely vocal about things actually, but he was vocal about two things this offseason, and one of them was Dylan being in the team. He didn't mention anything about. He didn't say do this. Because didn't even request it. He said, I really like Dylan, right?
Right.
Like we should just consider him. We should truly consider him. But in general, it's not just because of Caps. I mean, we had a short list of like 10 coaches, and we spoke with many of them. I can't say all of them because not everybody was off contract. But and Dylan was like, he's fucking good. Like, he's really fucking good, and he takes decisions based on data without making data take decisions for him. Actually, right. which is very, very interesting. I have seen coaches ignore data, and I have seen coaches blindly follow data. He's actually very good at like identifying what the right takeaways are from specific data points. And that sounds like cryptic, but it's really not that cryptic. Like the guy is just very good at knowing what type of data he should aim to get and how to read that data. So which gives you a very good insight into picks and bans, into how the meta is played, and into what is going to be the good players tomorrow, actually. And then on top of that, he's a human coach. You know, there's coaches that are just very technical, but he's actually very human. And he loves League of Legends just like Caps, BB, and Flakked. He's actually the same human, just older. So he lives, breathes League of Legends. He only thinks about League of Legends. He takes a shower thinking about League of Legends. Everything he does is for the purpose of being a better coach in League of Legends, you know? And that's a pretty good basis to start a year on. And then Rodrigo, who is the analyst that is working alongside us, same story. Like the guy these people are breathing League of Legends, bro. Like we have a group of people that there is nothing else that matters to them except League of Legends. They're all incredibly skilled. So in my world, is 1 + 1 = 2. Like when I decided to move away from French super team in Counter-Strike and go into the Hunter Nexa direction and going into just love for the game direction, look what happened. And I just truly believe in this. I have seen it play out in Rainbow Six too. I've seen it play out in Rocket League. I've seen it play out. If you love the game and you're skilled, you'll figure it out, bro. It's honestly that simple. So this team is really good mechanically, understand the game really, really well. At the same time, they don't sacrifice the way they play the game. So I see a lot of I watch almost every scrim. Maybe not like watch, but like I'm working or having calls and it's on the side. And I see what they pick, how they play. Is the G2 way actually, and but at the same time is on meta. So I lost my train of thought. What did I want to say as the final word? Oh yeah, that they're very, very mechanically skilled and they love the game, so they'll figure it out. They will figure it out. If they start shitting the bed 0-8, I'm actually not concerned. I'm dead serious. I'm not concerned. They'll figure it out. And that feeling of team spirit, camaraderie, the fact knowing that they will figure it out is just something that I don't trade for anything right now.
Right, you've touched on it there, but do you have any final words to end the interview?
No, I mean, honestly, bro, these days, these weeks with the off season and shit, they're always a pain in the balls because I gotta do what's best for the org, and sometimes as a result of that, players do get PC, you know. But that's affected me. As I told you, I mean, I'm an empathetic person, right? So it's not like I completely outright ignore players' careers. I don't. It does affect me, but this whole fan perception around the moves what I've learned in this off season is that there's just no way to please everybody, like ever. Regardless whether your moves are perfectly calibrated and crafted, there's always going to be hatred towards the way we do things and love towards the way we do things. So we have to separate ourselves from that fun perception and continue to do what we think is best for the org, because that's how we got here. You know, we are the most sought after organization to work for, to play for, and to sponsor and to invest in. And that has happened as a result of doing things our way, regardless of how people envision them to be or perceive them to be. So this off-season has just reinvigorated that. And the same way, we will not shy away from what we believe in, from fan criticism. We will not think we're gods because of fan love. You know? So it has, I think, balanced. I think we have achieved equilibrium, mental equilibrium in this off-season. And we've done the right. We truly believe we've done the right things, despite not liked by everybody. So we do it again and again and again and again, and that gives us peace of mind. 2022 is going to be a good year, man. I'm telling you already. I have to show you something actually at some point soon. That is, it's very fucking cool, the shit we're doing actually. And like, everybody says that, right? It's like the cheesy thing to say, but it's fucking insane. So 2022 is going to be our best year yet. I'm pretty damn sure. And then competitively speaking, you know, the things being spoken about in different games. I mean, I imploded the league team with hopes to win worlds always. And the same is happening with Rainbow Six team. And, you know, you hear about Counter-Strike moves that we're trying to make left, right, and center. People talk in Rocket League too. I mean, there's a lot to this. So 2022 is going to be a good year. If you're a G2 fan, just hang in there, because it's going to be fucking unbelievable. Honestly, I haven't seen a year as well prepared as this one.
Gracias. This video was kindly supported by Iskander, Lager15, Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, Travis Goff, Zack Schmidt, Adam Ochs, Animosity, Butt Pounder 420, Chronic Alcoholism, Hades, Jdubs, Jensen Goh, Joseph Ginsburg, Kovacevicd, Tobias Bernasconi, Zoomba, Zyrathenia, and of course, a special thanks goes out to Jerky's Minion and DZL. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? You want to ask me a question? Maybe you want to know who the guests are for my upcoming content, or you'd like to take part in one of those long donated discussions. Well, put your money where your mouth is at the Patreon link in the description box below and join the Skrilluminati today.